Hello students and welcome to Scholar, your one-stop solution to UPSC preparation. I'm Shubhangi Sharma, your faculty for history, and this module is pertaining to the NCERTs of history. Now students, as we all know, NCERTs are a very important part with respect to the UPSC understanding, and that is why in this particular module, we are going to journey through the entire history NCERTs for a lucid understanding. So what I want you to do is to watch these videos and then go back to your NCERT texts, and then you can relate them for a thorough understanding. So let's begin. Now students, in this particular lecture, we are going to take up the second chapter of NCERT Class 8 History titled Our Past 3, and the chapter's name is From Trade to Territory. Now students, in this particular chapter, the key topics that we are going to learn about include the advent of the different European countries in our country. Apart from this, we are going to learn about the expansion of the East India Company rule in India. Also, students, we are going to learn about the instruments of accession. That is, what were the policies through which the East India Company was successful in dominating different territories in our country. So, these policies will be learnt by us. And apart from the students, we are also going to learn about the administrative policies of India under the East India Company. So, wherever in the chapter you find the term EIC, it refers to East India Company. Now students, as we all know, the last big or last famous Mughal emperor was Aurangzeb, and after his death, the Mughal Empire started to crumble. There were no important or powerful rulers after Aurangzeb who could keep the Mughal Empire intact. And it was at this point of time that different regional powers within our country started to emerge. And because of this, there was a lot of conflict and chaos that was going on in our country, as there was no centralized single power. And it is due to this chaos that these European companies, particularly the British East India Company, took advantage of such kind of situation and started invading or ruling different parts of our country. So in this respect, students, we will understand this background, and now we are going to move forward in the time when the different European companies were arriving in our country. Now students, जैसे कि हमने लास्ट लेक्चर में बात करी थी, इंडिया का पीरियडाइजेशन है एंशियंट, मिडीवल एंड मॉडर्न जो कि colonial भी कहा जाता है. Now in our last lecture we had spoken what a particular time period is associated with what features. In that, students, we know that the modern or the colonial period is considered or correlated with the advent of the European companies, also with the decline of the Mughal Empire. Having said that, students, let's now understand the origins of East India Company in India. Now, students, by the second half of the 18th century, that is around the 1750s, a new power had emerged in our country, that is the Britishers. Now, the origin of East India Company is owed to the year 1600, that is much before the 1750s. Herein, we must know that the East India Company did not come during the 750s, rather its presence in India was already around the 1600s, but it came to power only after the decline of the Mughal Empire. So students, in the year 1600, the East India Company acquired a charter from the ruler of England, that is Queen Elizabeth I, who granted them the sole right to trade with the East. Now herein, students, it is going to be a very important point. You have to remember that in England itself, only East India Company was allowed to trade with India. No other company within England could trade with India. Okay? Apart from the students, with this charter, the company could venture across the oceans, and it could look for new lands to buy goods at cheap price and then sell them back in Europe at a higher price. Now, this particular process is also known as mercantilism, wherein by mercantilism we mean buying something at a cheaper rate and then selling it on a higher price. So this was the policy which the European companies were applying with respect to their trade in our country. Apart from the students, the company, that is the East India Company, did not have to fear competition from other English trading companies. As I have already told you, due to this particular charter given by Queen Elizabeth to the East India Company, no other English trading company could trade with India apart from the East India Company. So students, apart from this, we must know that it was not just, although England was free, East India Company was free from competition within its own country with respect to trade in India. However, by the time East India Company had reached India, there were already other European countries or other European trading companies that were trading with our country. So, having said that, students, the Royal Charter could not prevent other European powers from entering the Eastern markets. तो हमें यहाँ पर ये याद रखना है कि ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को ब्रिटिश सरकार की तरफ से ये जरूर बोल दिया गया था कि अब आपकी जो कंपनी है वो हमारी कंट्री से सिर्फ इकलौती कंपनी होगी जो इंडिया के साथ में या ईस्टर्न कंट्रीज के साथ में ट्रेड करेगी। लेकिन ब्रिटिश जो है, इंग्लैंड जो है, वो यूरोप की सिर्फ एक कंट्री है, बाकी कंट्रीज भी ट्रेडिंग करना चाहती थी। इसीलिए ऑल्दो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को इंडिया के अंदर ब्रिटिश इंग्लैंड की तरफ से एक्सक्लूसिव राइट्स थे, बट एट द सेम टाइम दूसरी यूरोपियन कंपनीज इंडिया के अंदर आ चुकी थी। उनमें इंपॉर्टेंट थी पोर्चुगीज और इंपॉर्टेंट थी डच और इंपॉर्टेंट थे फ्रेंच ट्रेडर्स। Now students, apart from this, we have to know the trade route through which the European companies had come to India. This particular trade route is very, very important for us. So in order to understand that, let's look at this particular image or map that is presented on your screens. Herein we can see that here lies the British island. And in order to reach to India, they had to sail across this part of the ocean, wherein they are covering the entire continent of Africa. The midpoint is Cape of Good Hope, and via the Cape of Good Hope, they could reach some important ports in India, such as Bombay, Madras, Calcutta, etc. So this was the trade route that was taken up by many European countries in order to reach India, wherein the midpoint, that is the Cape of Good Hope in Africa, is important for us, and we have to remember that. Apart from the students, as I have already discussed with you, that it was not just the East India Company that wanted to trade with the Eastern markets, rather there was presence of other European companies as well. Amongst them, the first one to reach India were the Portuguese, who had established their presence in the western coast of India, and they had their base in Goa. In fact, students, we must know that Vasco da Gama was a Portuguese explorer who had discovered the sea route to India in as early as 1498. Whereas we know that the East India Company was not even originating before the year 1600. Now, apart from the students, by the early 17th century, the Dutch too were exploring the possibilities for trading in the Indian Ocean, and the last to reach our country with respect to trade perspective were the French traders. So from this particular slide, we can understand that European powers such as the Portuguese, Dutch, English and French were keen to enter the trade markets of India. Now, students, after understanding this importance of trading with the Eastern countries, question that should come into our mind is that what were those trading items that were so important for these European companies? Now, students, having said that, the Europeans were mostly interested in the fine qualities of cotton and silk that was produced in India, and this in turn had a big market in Europe. Apart from the students, the Europeans were also interested in the spices of our country, such as pepper, cloves, cardamom and cinnamon. So these are very important facts. You have to remember them. Now, students, it will be important to note that there was a lot of competition amongst the European companies as all of them wanted to secure their markets. And it is due to this that there was a lot of battles and problems that were prevailing between these trading companies. Also, students, these particular companies, in order to ensure their trade with respect to India, wanted to fortify their settlements in our country to carry on a profitable trade. And because they wanted to fortify their settlements and have an important presence in our country, this led to a lot of conflicts with the local rulers as well. So there is a twin conflict going on. That is first conflict within the European companies and the second conflict with respect to the local rulers who do not want such a prominent presence of these European companies in their own territory. So these were the reasons because of which the company found it difficult to separate trade from politics. So herein we can see that the East India Company was not only trading with respect to certain products in our country, rather it had to actively engage with the local politics in order to have a prominent presence to mold certain policies in order to yield more and more profit. Now, students, let us understand how the East India Company started to establish its presence with respect to trade in India. Having said that, students, the first English factory was set up on the banks of river Hooghly in the year 1651, which was also the company's base, and the traders of the company at this point of time were known as factors. Apart from the students, this English factory had a warehouse wherein the goods were stored, and also certain offices were attached to these factories. Now, students, it will be very, very important to note that by the year 1696, the East India Company began building a fort around its settlement in Hooghly, and 2 years later, by bribing the Mughal officials, they were successful in acquiring zamindari rights over 3 villages, out of which one was Calicut, which is now known as Calcutta. Apart from the students, the East India Company was also successful in persuading the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, who in turn issued them a farman or a royal decree to grant company right of trade, which was duty free. So students, we can see the trajectory of East India Company's trading in Bengal, wherein the first factory was set up in Hooghly. The factory people were known as factors. The factory was organized in a way wherein there were attached warehouses and offices. And after some time, they began to fortify their settlement in any particular area in order to make a prominent presence. And apart from this, they also tried to bribe the local officials and the Mughal rulers in order to get certain incentives, such as getting duty-free trade, which was something that they had got from Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, which in turn yielded them more and more profits. Now, students, as I've already told you from the previous slide, we can understand how the British or the East India Company were trying their best to fortify their settlements and make a prominent presence in our country in order to trade in an effective manner. However, such kind of fortification led to problems with the local rulers. Having said that, students, the second aspect that we must know is that after the fall of Aurangzeb and the gradual decline of the Mughal Empire, there were a lot of regional empires that were flourishing in our country, and among them, the most prominent one were the Nawabs of Bengal. So students, keep these two aspects in our mind, as the new concept that we are now going to study is the Battle of Plassey and what happened before it, during it, and the aftermath of Battle of Plassey. Now students, as I've already told you, after the death of Aurangzeb, the Nawabs rose in power in Bengal, and among them, the important Nawabs included Murshid Quli Khan, who was followed by Alivardi Khan, and this was followed by Sirajud-Dowla. Now students, these particular Nawabs were not happy with the presence of East India Company in their particular area, and that is why they accused the company of deceit. Apart from this, they were not happy to grant any concessions to the company, and also they accused the company of demanding large tributes in order they also demanded large tributes from the company in order to give them the right to trade. Apart from the students, they also denied the company the right to mint any coins and to extend their fortifications. On the other hand, students, the company itself was very powerful because of their backing. So that is why they declared these particular demands of the local officials as unjust, and they wanted to expand their trade by enlarging their settlements, buying villages, and rebuilding their forts. So we can see here that how the interests of the company and the local rulers are absolutely conflicting, and this in turn escalated, which further led to the Battle of Plassey. So students, these conflicts led to confrontations which culminated into the famous Battle of Plassey in Bengal. Now students, let us understand the course of the Battle of Plassey, what happened during the Battle of Plassey and what were the reasons behind this particular battle. Now students, as I have already told you, the important Nawabs of Bengal included Murshid Quli Khan, who was followed by Alivardi Khan, and when Alivardi Khan had died, his successor was known as Sirajud-Dowla, who came to the throne in 1756. Now students, the company, when Sirajud-Dowla came into power, became very worried as they did not like his policies. And that is why, in order to remove him, they made a plan to empower Sirajud-Dowla's rivals in order to overthrow him. Now what happened is that Sirajud-Dowla came to know about this particular plan and he became very furious. And because of this, he marched with around 30,000 soldiers to the English factory located at Qasim Bazar and in turn captured the company officials, locked their warehouse, disarmed all the Englishmen and blockaded the English ships. Apart from the students, Sirajud-Dowla then marched on to Calcutta to establish control over the company's fort. Once the company officials in Madras came to know about this, they sent their forces under the command of Robert Clive. He is a very important person for us with respect to the Battle of Plassey, who in turn reinforced their power in Calcutta, and this was reinforced by their naval fleets. So students, we can see how the conflicts between Sirajud-Dowla and the company officials escalated, wherein the company was plotting to overthrow him by empowering their rivals. This was something that was not digested by Sirajud-Dowla, who attacked their particular factories in Qasim Bazar and later in Calcutta. And when the company officials in Madras came to know about such a situation, they united themselves under Robert Clive and in turn attacked Sirajud-Dowla. And finally, in the year 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Sirajud-Dowla at the Battle of Plassey. So we have understood the idea or the situations that were prevailing before the Battle of Plassey. Lot of conflicts, rivalry, planning, plotting going on, and this culminated into the Battle of Plassey, wherein one side, on English side, there was Robert Clive, and on the Bengal Nawab side, there was Sirajud-Dowla, and the battle happened in the year 1757. Now students, in this particular battle, Sirajud-Dowla lost it to the English, and one of the major reasons for his defeat was the betrayal by Mir Jafar, who was one of his commanders who had joined hands with the British. So there was an internal politics that happened within the nobility of Sirajud-Dowla himself, wherein one section of his nobility supported the English, and due to this, Sirajud-Dowla lost the Battle of Plassey. And in return, Mir Jafar was made the Nawab after assassinating Sirajud-Dowla. Now here in students, one very important point that I would like to tell you is that till the year 1757, the pure aim of East India Company was related to trading and gaining trading benefits. They were not at all interested in ruling India or making themselves a part of the administration of our country. And that is why once they were successful in killing Sirajud-Dowla, they gave the throne to Mir Jafar, who can in turn be a puppet type of Nawab for them and give them lucrative trade policies. So students, with this we have understood the course of Battle of Plassey, how Sirajud-Dowla, the Nawab of Bengal, was defeated by the East India Company, and instead a puppet Nawab, that is Mir Jafar, was put on his particular post. However, students, even the puppet Nawab, that is Mir Jafar, after some point of time started to protest against the oppressive demands of the British East India Company, and it is due to this that the company deposed him and instead installed Mir Qasim in his place. So herein, this particular notion of not getting into the administration of our country is reinstated, wherein the East India Company is not at all interested in taking administration into their own hands. Rather, they just want a puppet kind of Nawab who can just go along their trading policies, give them a lot of concessions. And once Mir Jafar protested, they placed some other person in his place, that is Mir Qasim, so that he can grant them concessions so that they can get more and more profits. However, students, it will be important to note that even Mir Qasim got fed up with the more and more demands of the East India Company, and that is why a battle known as the Battle of Buxar in the year 1764 was fought between Mir Qasim and the East India Company. Herein, students, it will be important to note that during the Battle of Buxar, Mir Qasim was given help by the Nawab of Awadh, that is Shuja-ud-Dawla, and also Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II fought along with Mir Qasim against the East India Company. However, students, it will be important to note that all three combined forces were not successful against the East India Company, and Mir Qasim in turn was driven out of Bengal, and again Mir Jafar, who was the Nawab before Mir Qasim, was reinstalled. Now students, herein it will be important to note that the duty of these puppet Nawabs was to pay rupees 5 lakh every month to the company, who wanted more money to finance their wars and meet the demands of their trades and expenses. So you can understand how much a chunk of money this particular company was demanding from the Nawabs, who in turn after some point of time realized the oppressions that were put on them by this company, and that is why they were protesting after some point of time. Now students, it will be important to note that by the time Mir Jafar died in 1765, the mood of the company had changed. Now, what do we mean by this particular statement? I have been telling you constantly that before the Battle of Plassey or even after the Battle of Plassey, the company was in no mood of getting into the administrative part of our country. They were solely interested in trading with respect to certain products and yield more and more profits. However, seeing the political scenario, the opposition that was faced by them constantly, their mood changed after 1765, wherein Robert Clive, who had headed the East India Company during the Battle of Plassey, suggested that we must indeed become Nawabs ourselves. That is, now the company had made a mood of ruling the country with respect to its administrative part as well. So students, इसके साथ में हमने अपने इस लेक्चर पे डिस्कशन कंप्लीट कर लिया है. अब हम एक क्विक रिकैप लेंगे, हमने आज क्या पढ़ा है इस पर्टिकुलर चैप्टर में. तो हमने सबसे पहले ये समझा था कि कैसे मुगल एम्पायर औरंगजेब के मरने के बाद में धीरे धीरे डिक्लाइन होने लग गया था, जिसकी वजह से बहुत सारी रीजनल पावर्स हमारी कंट्री में आ गई थी और एक कियोटिक सिचुएशन हो गई थी, जिसका फायदा इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने उठाया था. उसके अलावा हमने ये समझा था कि कैसे ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी का ओरिजिन हुआ. एक चार्टर उनको मिला था क्वीन एलिजाबेथ की तरफ से 1600 में, जिसकी वजह से इंग्लैंड में से वो एक सिंगल कंपनी बने जो इंडिया के साथ ट्रेड कर सकती थी. उनके अलावा इंग्लैंड से कोई और कंपनी इंडिया के साथ ट्रेड नहीं कर सकती थी. हमने मर्केंटलिज्म का एस्पेक्ट भी इसमें पढ़ा था, जिसमें इंडिया से वो सामान चीप रेट्स पर खरीद कर यूरोप में और एक्सपेंसिव रेट्स पर बेचा करते थे. उसके अलावा स्टूडेंट्स, हमने कुछ अदर इंपॉर्टेंट यूरोपियन पावर्स के बारे में पढ़ा था जो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, इंग्लिश ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी से पहले आ चुकी थी, सच एज दी पोर्चुगीज. एंड पोर्चुगीज के अंडर हमने वास्को ड गामा के बारे में समझा था, जिसने इंडिया के सी रूट को खोज लिया था 1498 में ही. इसके अलावा जो दूसरी इंपॉर्टेंट यूरोपियन कंपनीज हमारी कंट्री में आई थी वो थी डच और फ्रेंच. ऑल्सो स्टूडेंट्स, हमने ये समझा था कि जो ट्रेड रूट है वो हमने समझा था कि कैसे ब्रिटिश इंडिया आए थे, जिसमें हमारे लिए केप ऑफ गुड होप काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है. उसके अलावा हमने समझा था कि कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट ट्रेडिंग आइटम्स है जिसकी वजह से इतना फियर्स कंपटीशन था यूरोपियन कंपनीज में हमारी कंट्री में आके ट्रेड करने के लिए। ये इंक्लूड करते थे कॉटन, सिल्क, पेपर, क्लोव्स, कार्डमम एंड सिनेमन। सो बेसिकली टेक्सटाइल्स एंड स्पाइसेस। सो अपार्ट उसके अलावा स्टूडेंट्स हमने ये समझा था कि कंपनीज का आपस में भी झगड़ा था ट्रेड को लेके, और क्योंकि वो इंडिया के अंदर बहुत प्रोमिनेंटली प्रेजेंस बनाना चाहते थे तो उनका लोकल लोगों के साथ में, लोकल रूलर्स के साथ में भी झगड़ा था। उसके अलावा हमने इंडिया के अंदर ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के ओरिजिन समझे थे, जहां पे ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की पहली फैक्ट्री हुगली में 1651 में बनी थी। फैक्ट्री किस तरह से ऑर्गेनाइज हुई थी इसके बारे में हमने समझा था, जिसमें एक फैक्ट्री में एक वेयर हाउस होता है और अटैच्ड ऑफिसेस होते हैं जहां पर ऑफिशियल्स रहते हैं। उसके अलावा हमने ये भी समझा था कि धीरे धीरे कुछ समय बाद कंपनी ने अपने सेटलमेंट्स को फोर्टिफाई करना शुरू कर दिया था, जिसकी वजह से उनका लोकल रूलर्स से भी झगड़ा हो रहा था। बट मुगल ऑफिशियल्स को ब्राइब करके, पर्टिकुलरली औरंगजेब से उन्होंने एक फरमान यानी कि रॉयल डिक्री ले ली थी, जिसकी वजह से वो इंडिया के अंदर ड्यूटी फ्री ट्रेड कर सकते थे। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस हमने ये समझा था कि इंडिया के अंदर कैसे रीजनल पावर्स बाहर आई थी, और उसको समझते हुए हमने बंगाल की सिचुएशन को समझा था, जिसमें नवाब्स औरंगजेब की डेथ के बाद में राइज करे थे बंगाल में, जिसमें सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट था मुर्शिद कुली खान। वो फॉलो, उसके बाद में जो नेक्स्ट सक्सेसर आए वो थे अलीवर्दी खान, एंड फाइनली उसके बाद जो एक और इम्पोर्टेंट सक्सेसर थे जो वो थे सिराजुद्दौला, जिनके अंडर ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी के साथ में बैटल ऑफ प्लासी हुआ था। उसके अलावा हमने ये समझा था कि क्या डिफरेंट प्रॉब्लम्स या क्या कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स रहे कंपनी और सिराजुद्दौला के बीच में, जिसकी वजह से बैटल ऑफ प्लासी हुआ। नाउ बैटल ऑफ प्लासी जैसा कि हम जानते हैं 1757 में हुआ था, जिसमें सिराजुद्दौला को रॉबर्ट क्लाइव, जो कि ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की तरफ से बैटल कर रहे थे, उन्होंने उसे हरा दिया था। सिराजुद्दौला को हराने के बाद में ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी ने मीर जाफर को नवाब बना दिया था, जो एक तरह से पपेट नवाब थे, जो ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी की तरफ से ही काम कर रहे थे और उनको ट्रेड में अच्छे कंसेशंस दे रहे थे, जिससे उनको बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉफिट हो रहा था। लेकिन कुछ समय बाद मीर जाफर ने प्रोटेस्ट करना शुरू कर दिया, क्योंकि कंपनी की पॉलिसीज बहुत ही ऑप्रेसिव थी, और इस वजह से उन्हें हटा के कंपनी ने मीर कासिम को नवाब बना दिया। लेकिन कुछ समय बाद मीर कासिम ने भी रिवोल्ट किया, जो कल्मिनेट हुआ बैटल ऑफ बक्सर में, जिसमें मीर कासिम की मदद नवाब ऑफ अवध दैट इज शुजाउद्दौला और मुगल एम्परर शाह आलम II ने की थी अगेंस्ट द ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, लेकिन वो तीनों ही हार गए, और उनके हारने के बाद मीर जाफर को फिर से बंगाल का नवाब बना दिया गया। लेकिन स्टूडेंट्स 1765 दैट इज बैटल ऑफ प्लासी के बाद में जो ब्रिटिशर्स थे उनका मूड चेंज हो गया। मूड चेंज होने का मतलब ये है कि पहले वो सिर्फ ट्रेडिंग पर्सपेक्टिव से इंडिया में आए थे, लेकिन 1765 के बाद में उन्हें ऐसा लगने लगा कि हमें कंट्री की एक्टिव पॉलिटिक्स में पार्टिसिपेट करना पड़ेगा, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के अंदर घुसना पड़ेगा, जिससे हम और ज्यादा प्रॉफिट यील्ड कर पाए। और इसी वजह से रॉबर्ट क्लाइव ने 1765 में ये डिक्लेयर किया कि अब हम खुद नवाब बनेंगे। So with this students, हमने अपना डिस्कशन कंप्लीट कर लिया है। I hope you have understood all these topics thoroughly. If you like our content, please visit scholar.com for more. Thank you.